Hi friends, welcome to this month's episode of the Glisten Podcast. Today I have a special edition for you. I had the honor and the privilege of being on my friend Nicole Crank's show. And this is a show that's actually on Victory Network, but it's also on her YouTube channel. And that's probably another good place that you can go check out that's got all kinds of shows. She does shows on multiple different topics, and I'd love for you to go check it out. I loved being on her show this month, but I'll tell you something, it was pretty hard to share my testimony. You know, sometimes the thing that you are most ashamed of is sometimes the thing that God can use to not only redeem you and heal you, but He can use it to help someone else and to heal someone else and to set someone else free. And so about a year ago, I shared my testimony for the first time with my family and also with our church, with my family of choice. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I really felt like that's what God was calling me to do. And then just a few weeks ago, I was able to share that on the Nicole Crank Show. And so I would love to share that with you as well. And so I hope that you'll check it out today and that you'll let me know if it ministers to you in any kind of way, if it touches you in any kind of way. I'd love for you to comment, to share it with other people that you think might benefit from it. I know that what I went through, 1 in 3 women have been through. And so with that being a pretty high statistic, I'm pretty sure that it will help a lot of people. And she also talks about her story and the shame that she experienced in a totally different way. But I'd love for you to check out her show, I'm glad you're here today to check out our show on this channel, and that you'll continue to like, share, subscribe, and share it with all of your friends. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey friends, I'm so glad you're here with me today, hanging out in this old hood, which is a little familiar to me, and I'll tell you about that later. Actually, there's an incredible story I'm going to share with you later from all of this, but I want to tell you what we're talking about today. We're talking about releasing shame. What is shame anyway? Shame's that stuff that happened to you in your past that you couldn't stop from happening. Shame's some of those things that you did in your past that you wish you didn't do. And maybe you're like me, you got a double dose. You did some of that dumb stuff, and then some of that dumb stuff happened to you and you couldn't stop it, and now it's coming at you from both sides, and it's trying to anchor you maybe to your past, keeping these things running through your head and you don't know what to do with it. No, today that breaks. Today that stops. This is a divine appointment today. Today, no more blame, no more shame. No, that's the devil's game, and the devil belongs beneath our feet, and that's where we're putting him today. That's why my friend Charlotte Turner is going to be with us. She's a church girl with a not-so-churchy past, but she's willing to share it, and she's willing to talk about where she's been and where she is now and how she overcame this stuff. Then my powerhouse friend, Sarah Jakes Roberts, I tell you what, she had some crazy things in her past too, but she's not letting that stop her. No, she's putting her past where it belongs, in her past. She's forgiving her past so she can step forward into her future. Are you ready? Jot down some notes, take some comments, write down some scriptures, write down your prayer requests. I'll tell you where to send those later, but right now, let's go.
Scattered, lots of fun, and energetic. Put God first. If you put God first, then everything else seems to fall into place, and that's the best advice I've ever gotten, for sure. Guilty pleasure Nutella. Nutella, I have to keep it out of my house, because if it's in my house, I will take a spoon and then just eat the whole jar. Be positive, because nothing positive can happen when you're negative.
Hey, I like to ask my friends one word and see what they have to say about it. So Charlotte, today I want to ask you, what does shame mean to you when you hear that word?
I think shame really means, I think there's a difference between guilt and shame. So guilt is when you feel bad about what you did, but shame is when you feel really bad about who you are.
So tell me about a time in life when something shamed you or you felt shame. Maybe you shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, I have experienced shame a lot, I think. It was something that I didn't really understand, but I think that when I look back on my life, there was a time in my life where I had felt really ashamed of the fact that I didn't know how to do math. That's my earliest memory. My earliest memory is trying to memorize my multiplication tables, and all the other kids in the class had a little rocket ship that went up for the times tables.
Yeah.
And my little rocket ship got stuck at 5.
No.
And it wouldn't go any further. So I was really ashamed that I could not memorize those, and it made me feel like I just wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't the same as everybody else. I wasn't able to be successful like everybody else. So I started to put kind of a label on who I was.
Yeah.
And that kind of carried over. And when I started making some really bad decisions, that just compounded everything else.
So the shame told you what story in your head?
The shame told me I wasn't good enough, that I didn't have what it took, that I wasn't, there was something wrong with me internally. There was something broken, something that just couldn't be loved, that wasn't worthy of being loved, that there was something wrong with me, period.
Were you ever able to shake it?
I think that only after making some really, really bad decisions as a young adult, did I really even understand the nature of it and the lie that I had been telling myself. Because whoever entered into my life, if they perpetuated that lie, or I perceived that they perpetuated that lie in any kind of way, then I continued to believe it. And so until I made a really bad decision and received God's love and forgiveness after that, did I start believing what God said about me instead of what I believed about me. And I realized what I was thinking was just a big fat lie.
So once you met Jesus,
Yes.
then the shame,
Yes.
you were able to give it to him.
Yes, he's a shame breaker.
This is actually the neighborhood where I bought my first house. This is the neighborhood I lived in when I was married to my first husband. This is the neighborhood I lived in when what seemed like the life of my dreams, the man of my dreams, everything I had wished for, kind of turned into a nightmare. I remember the night that I literally ran down the sidewalk because my in-laws lived just a couple blocks down, and they called me in the middle of the night, and there was no hello, no how are you, no sorry to disturb you. It was just get out of the house now. They're coming. And I guess what had happened is he owed some drug dealers money. I don't even really know what happened, but I knew that they were trying to get in and get them, and they were afraid they were gonna come try and get in and get me in Austin. So I grabbed my little son, who at the time is 4 or 5 years old, in the middle of the night, scoop him out of bed in my pajamas, and just take off running down the street. Where do you go in the middle of the night? I didn't have time to get my car. I just had to get out. That's the kind of life that was happening to me for a little while. You see, what happened was I was married to this guy, and he got addicted to crack cocaine. It didn't happen in a day. It was a journey. He had prescription drugs that turned into cocaine. Cocaine turned into crack cocaine one day when the dealer, all he had was rocks. I didn't know what that meant until later in the cycle of rehab and recovery and restoration, and then it started over again with more drug use. I remember in Easter where me and Austin sat under this tree right here, and we had some pretty white flowers planted, and we took our Easter pictures. I wanted a happy life. I was trying for a happy life, but that's not what was happening at the time. I can remember being stuck in this house right here. He would come home from a drug binge, and I guess coming down made him violent, because every time he came home from a drug binge, he was violent, and he would literally burst in the front door and just want to know where I had been. What had I been doing? Well, I'd been going to work. I'd been taking care of Austin. I'd been taking care of the house. What do you mean, where have I been? And I remember one day he grabbed me. I had a dress on because I'd been at work all day, and he grabbed me by the collar of the dress and just ripped so hard, it just ripped it. And it dropped me to my knees, and I said, why did you rip my dress? And he answered that by knocking over the end table next to the couch, and there was a potted plant, and dirt went all over the light colored carpet. I'm like, you're ruining our house. It's funny, I was worried about him ruining the house when really it was ruining the home. I got a herniated C7, a broken rib. I remember there was a ceiling fan in our bedroom in these first windows, and as he went into the bedroom, he got mad, and so he just reached up and pulled the ceiling fan out of the ceiling. I was like, what is happening? I remember locking the bedroom door, which didn't stop him for very long because he ended up coming through it because he couldn't like break the lock. And I remember another time when he took me and he shoved me so hard into the wall in the dining room that it broke the drywall in the house. It was embarrassing. I remember him coming in and him saying, "You're not getting out of here." And me screaming, "Help, help, help." Because there's a house right there. I thought surely they're gonna be able to see me. And this evil laugh came up. He goes, "They're never gonna hear you." And they couldn't. I was stuck. I was gonna have to admit to my family I was wrong. I was gonna have to admit to my friends I was wrong. I was gonna have to admit to my coworkers I was wrong. I was gonna have to admit to myself that I was wrong. I had to admit to myself that I couldn't fix this. I couldn't make him get off drugs. I couldn't make him love me. I couldn't make him treat me right. And the shame that came with all of this was unbearable. I remember coming in the house so many times, and when I came in the house, my VCR was gone because that's what we had at the time. I remember my TV being gone. I remember our video camera being gone. I remember my son's, I don't remember if it was Nintendo or PlayStation or what it was. I remember that disappearing. That's the one that really got me when my son came home and his game was gone and all of the games that went in it. I was like, how low is this? There's story after story after story. You know what? I could sit here and tell you how wrong it all was. When my ex-husband put a revolver in my mouth and pulled the trigger, but that chamber didn't happen to have a bullet. When he pinned me down and it herniated my C7, he was trying to break my neck. The devil has plans, but God. You see, what the devil meant to be my tombstone, it's now my stepping stone. It's now my platform. It's not what I used to tell people. I don't know where you are. I don't know what kind of relationship you're in. I don't know what happened to you. I don't know what's happening through you. I don't know what's happening around you. Or what if you're the addict who's the abuser? I don't know what's happening because of you, but this I know. We serve a forgiving, redeeming, and restoring God. And Jesus did not die to leave you in this kind of situation. Jesus died to save you from this situation. Jesus died to pull you out of this situation. Jesus died to give you a full, whole, prosperous, blessed, healthy life. I could walk around for the rest of my life a statistic, an abused woman, a pregnant unwed mother. But instead, I walk around as a child of the Most High King. I have one word that I want to ask you. When I ask you this word, I want to hear what you think of.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know. I think so. Shame is that distant relative that has a way of showing up at the most inopportune time, so you have to remind to put in their place. I think that because of what I've gone through, shame always feels very close to me because it was for so long my initial reaction to everything. But because I have decided that shame has no place in my life, whenever it pops back up, it's like that cousin that's always asking for money and you know it's never going, you're never going to pay me back.
Never.
So I have to tell you no and send you back to where you are. That's what shame has become for me. But it is also a reminder to me that whatever I'm going through, that there's a promise attached to it. Because I've never felt shame in an area of my life where there wasn't promise attached to it. So shame makes me curious about what it is trying to distract me from.
Okay friends, this is about as rough as it gets. So I just finished the message where I take my makeup off, but this beautiful church has people who put it back on. And so I just want to talk while they're doing this about how a lot of times these are the things that we would hide I mean, there's everything okay with makeup because I plan on wearing makeup every single day, but we shouldn't look better on the outside than we look on the inside. We shouldn't have the facade of a relationship. We should actually have real relationships, and we can't have real relationships unless we're emotionally naked. But it's the things that people go through that we don't see, right? So even in the relationships, you might see somebody's marriage or somebody's dating relationship and think they get along so good, everything just goes so right in their life, look how beautiful they are, look how great they treat each other. And I just want to let you know, they fight. Oh yeah. So be willing to get naked in the relationship, emotionally naked. Be willing to be honest. Be willing to be vulnerable. I couldn't be more vulnerable right now. There is nothing about this that is cute. But I'm willing to be vulnerable in the relationship so that you and I can build relationship.
How did it start?
I guess when I look back, I think that growing up in the denominational church that I grew up in, and being in the Bible Belt, there is an expectation of perfection. Mm-hmm. No one talks about anything. No one talks about anything that they did wrong. So my perception was everybody at church was perfect.
Yeah.
And so that, again, perpetuated my belief that something was wrong with me. I tried to go along with the crowd and do what everybody else was doing, I guess. And so with my parents, I tried to kind of breach the subjects that I wanted to share with them.
Yeah.
But I realized real quick that that was not a safe place.
Because they went to Perfect People Church.
They went to Perfect People Church.
And not at Real People Church.
But I still just wanted somebody to love me. Mm-hmm. I just wanted somebody to love me for who I was. Mm-hmm. And I was looking for that in a guy.
So you graduate from college, and those friends stay, those friends go. What happens?
Well, while I was in college is when I really took a turn. It was kind of the last year of college. Uh-huh. And I had been dating someone for about 6 years. So all through, like, I'd met him on my high school trip, and I actually dated him all through college till, right towards the end. So
did he go to your school?
He did not, and they let me go to another school, which I'm glad that I actually went to the other school because of the relationships I ended up building there. But yeah, I went to another school, went to University of Georgia, became a Georgia girl.
So you're dating a guy, he's at another school. Now how far away is he?
He is about 3.5 hours away.
Okay, and you're graduating from college, the last year of college.
Mm-hmm. Last year of college, I'm dating him, and I realized we had been having a sexual relationship outside of marriage, and which brings with it all these things, all these emotions that I'd never felt before, with jealousy and anger and just, like, what are you doing? Like suspicion. And I was not like that. That was not my personality. And so I just was miserable. I ended up getting pregnant. And so when I got pregnant, I will never forget. We discovered this together. We went to the health clinic and they told me, and he's like, well, we can't, this can't happen. You're gonna have to have an abortion because I'm gonna do great things, and I want to be in the public eye, and I can't have this, and we're too young, and just all these different reasons. And I was so afraid of what people would think, what people would say, and the judgment from everyone else. Although I knew it was not the right thing to do, I knew it was wrong. I knew that it's not something that. And honestly, when I made the choice to go through with that, I really felt like I had signed off my death certificate. Like, you're going to hell. Like, you know it was wrong. You did it anyway. There's no hope for you. There's not enough forgiveness for you. You're done. Like, it's over.
So was that maybe even part of? He said don't go to that school. He said have the abortion. And you couldn't figure out why you were always, waiting for him? Your friends are wrapping the cords around the phone, put him in the drawer, but you kept going back to him. Do you think maybe that was a version of thinking if I can win his love? Or have you ever thought about that?
Yeah,
why?
I so badly just wanted him just to love me. And I felt like if I did everything he said for me to do, that he would love me more.
So you guys have been married 20 years now, got a couple kids. It turned out great though, right?
No.
No? What do you mean?
No, we ended up, so when that happened, after the abortion, it's like you think that everything's going to be fine. It's just, it was just a lump of tissue. It wasn't really a baby, and that's what I tried to tell myself, because that's what, some people will say and project. And so I tried to tell myself that lie, although I knew in my heart it wasn't true. And when I went into the clinic, I will never forget, they do an ultrasound on you. They do a pregnancy test, and then they do an ultrasound. And they did the ultrasound, and it's behind you, so you can't see it. And the lady was like, "Oh, I can't find anything." And that had been I was like, "God, please, like, don't let it let it be not true. Like, let this just not be true." And so when she said that she couldn't see anything, I looked, and the minute that I looked, she found the baby, and I saw. And I just turned my head and just like, it's not a baby, it's not a baby, it's not what you think it is. And I just tried to lie to myself through it. So after, you think, oh, it's just, I'll just push it to the side, it's in the rearview mirror, but it doesn't work like that. And I just was a wreck. After it was over, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I, again, thought I had signed over my life to hell. Like, I just, here's Satan, here I am. Like, I can't ever go face God again. And I was hopeless. I was so hopeless. And so when that was all over, I remember I was with my friend, and she said, "Charlotte, what is wrong with you? Like, you are not yourself. Like, you're just a different person." And I said, "Do you really want to know?" And we had made a pact. He told me, "You can never tell anybody. You can't talk about this with anyone." And I couldn't stop thinking about it, and it had been weeks. And so
And he wasn't there. He was 3.5 hours away.
So I told her, and she said, "We're going to go to counseling. I'm going to take you to this counselor." And he was wonderful. This counselor was he was an Indian missionary. And I sat in his house, and his family was there, and they, went off in another room, and he just really, his gift and his ability to help me see things clearly saved my life. Like, it saved my life, it changed my life, and it broke literally everything off of my life. When I got to the counselor and went through all of that, I came home and I felt really great. And I had never been able to get away from him. Remember, he calls me on the phone. I answer the phone, and I'm like, "Hey," and he's like, "Where have you been?" And I've been trying to call you. I'm like, "I was at the counselor's." And he said, "Who?" And I'm, "What counselor?" And I told him how I'd felt. He started cussing me out. Like, he started calling me names, and like, "You promised you would never tell anybody." And at that very moment, I was like, "You know what? You don't care about me." Like, it was like, duh, like, you should have known this all along. But it was like the blinders were taken off, the soul tie was broken, and I said, "You don't care about me, you care about you. You don't care about me. I thought you cared about me, but you really don't. You care about you." And I ended it and never ever went back.
One of my favorite things I've ever gotten to do was to go to Cuba and distribute books for free to people. Preach the gospel. You have no idea what it was like to be going into a communist country, preaching the gospel with this really hard to get religious visa, and I wonder if I'm gonna go to jail in a foreign country. The Cuban people, you only make $20 a month as mandated by the government. You're a surgeon, you make $20 a month. You work in a factory, you make $20 a month. So it really moved on our hearts, and we knew we have to help these people. With your gift of $20, there's something in it for you. I get to send you a High God book of your own in English, and then you would print 3 Hola Dios soy yo otra vez, which is Hi God, it's me again, en español. There's not even a Christian bookstore in all of Cuba, in the entire country. How do they hear about Jesus? With your gift of $100 or more, we will get 20 books into Cuba. We'll distribute them. We will do all the hard work. All we need you to do is help us finance printing them. I know you can do that. And you know what? The people there are going to be so grateful and so gracious. I just want to let you know, I'm so thankful that you are helping resource the Nicole Cranks Show, and that you guys are partners with us. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for helping us help people, and thank you for helping us help the people of Cuba.
So we both have teenage girls now. So how do we as moms make sure that our girls feel like they can talk to us about the things that we didn't feel like we could talk to our moms about. Because you're a pastor's wife. Now, you're just not like in the church, you like kind of are the church. So it's like if you don't want the pastor to find out, you're the pastor. So how do we do that for our kids?
I think that it's really just being honest and telling them. Like I for a long time did not share that with her because I didn't feel like she was old enough to really understand that. She's 15 now, so I just last year talked about it. I told her that there was things I wasn't proud of, and I would share with her one day. And when I was warning her about the possibilities of things that could happen, and just really wanted to build her up in her self-esteem and who she was, what she was capable of, and paint a picture for her of what her future can look like. And I think her seeing her dad and I have such a healthy relationship and model, I know just research-based, when kids see a healthy family, then that's what they want for themselves. And so I think that played a big role. But just this past year is when I finally told all of my kids. I sat them down and told them.
And that was I was at your church.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So you talked to your family that week, and then you released it to your whole church.
Yes.
So like, this isn't the perfect people church. This is the real people church.
Yes. And I was astounded. Like, I was astounded at the way that my kids I'll just cry talking about it, because it was like, they were sitting on the sofa, and I can't even hold it together, because I never thought about having to tell them my story. And I sat down and told them, and they just hugged. They just jumped on top of me like a pile and just were hugging me and loving on me and praying for me even. And so that was just such a blessing. And then to tell my church, because I know that maybe they viewed me in some other way, and I had gotten used to that way, whatever that way was. And so when I told my church, I was super nervous, but I knew that God was saying this is the time. And so I told my kids that week, told the church at the conference, and I couldn't believe the reaction and the response, and how many women came up to me. We know at that time it was, back in the day, it was like 1 in 3 women who have gone through something like that and made that decision, and they just carry that shame. They just carry that guilt. It's something that they don't talk about. And so for them to be able to come up to me and say, me too, me too, me too, me too, me too, I was like,
you
wow.
broke through the very thing that you had been afraid of when you were younger. You broke that. You broke that dam. That barrier of shame and get whatever that is that they were carrying around that kept them from that, being able to get honest. And that's what I wanted to share with you today, that honesty is the key to healing. And today is the day that you are going to get free of this. Charlotte, I want you to pray for our viewers today, and everybody who's watching, who I know there are people who've gotten abortion, they've never told anybody. I don't think it's by accident that any one of you have tuned in today. I think God connected us on purpose, because there's a freedom and a light that's about to come into your soul that you have been aching for ages, and today is the answer to your prayer.
God, I thank you so much for all of my friends that are watching, all of our friends that have tuned in right now, and I pray in the mighty name of Jesus that you would set them free, God. You set them free, that they would forgive themselves. And God, I thank you that your word already says that you forgive us and cleanse us of all unrighteousness only when we come to you and we confess our sins. And so I pray that they would confess to you. And I thank you that you are faithful, and they are cleansed, they are forgiven, they are whole, and they are free. In Jesus' name, amen.
So when I first came to this area with Pastor David and we were looking around to plant the Ferguson Florissant campus, I would actually go home at night and have nightmares. Pastor David said he liked it just a little bit, because I would just wake up and I would hug him and he'd be like, I love when you have nightmares, you give me such love. I hated when I had nightmares, but I want to let you know I don't have those nightmares anymore, because I've been relieved from the pain. I've been released from the shame. God has healed my heart. I'm full of forgiveness, and whatever the enemy has done to me, I'm gonna make it pay. I want you to email me. Go to NicoleCrank.com. There's a form right there. We'll see it. I want you to put your prayer request right there so I can pray for you. I want to share it with my prayer partners so they can pray for you. And then don't leave me hanging. You got to share your testimony right there. You know what? There's another way for us to connect. I want you to text me right now, 314-530-2525. Text the word gift right there, and that's going to start a connectivity with us, because I want to get you material that's going to take you all the way through this, where you get your complete healing from God. I'm so happy you tuned in today. It wasn't by accident. God's going to do great things in your life.
So what would the soundtrack of your life be?
Oh my goodness, let's see.
I'm gonna call Shame Destiny's Child. Never gonna get it. Wait, did they sing that song?
No.
I just was thinking about this the other day, so I should have a really great answer for you.
Who is that?
Is it not Escape?
No, who is it?
What was I thinking? Okay, so this is not rapid fire if I'm not saying it rapidly.
En Vogue.
En Vogue!
Yes.
Oh, man. Living on a Prayer. That's it, Living on a Prayer.